Yo, what is up guys? Today we are doing a more of a Neuro based kind of style. I'll play you an example I've made. It actually turned out really well, so I might make it to a whole song. Just taking this down because I put a master channel on it. So here's the example. There we go, so as you can see, it sounds pretty nice. Well, in my opinion, it sounds very nice. So let's get this master chain off, just so it's not ridiculously loud. There we go. So, again, it's quite a long chain outside of Serum. But, I mean, it's nothing too complicated, but as always, I'll switch off all the effects. There are quite a few steps I did with distortion in these EQs, but I'll explain that when it gets to it. So now we have the clean sound coming from Serum, which is this. Now I'm pretty sure this wavetable is a wavetable in Serum already, but like some presets, when you save them, it doesn't tell you what it is. So I'm gonna upload that like I did my Must Die base, so you can download that and import that in, so there's no troubles. But basically, this is quite a simple Reese. When making Reeses, you'd normally detune two waves so they modulate each other, but I've actually modulated it with a sine wave with the amplitude. So turn this off. That wobbling is coming from this, so if I switch it off, you just turn all these off as well. There we go, very quiet now. But yeah, so the first thing to do would be get a sine wave, put it on -3, and turn the level down, and that's this oscillator B done. Then you want to come to oscillator A and select from this drop down menu AM from B. Now that's amplitude modulation, so it's not like FM, it doesn't modulate the pitch, it modulates the amp, and because it's so low down it's quite slow. So if I turn this higher, it still sound cool, but it's not the Reese sound. So that is modulated to 41. And then the macro is mapped to the wavetable all the way. I've got this slightly detuned for, like I said a minute ago, with how you use two waves. You have them almost mono, and they sort of cancel each other out, and then you get the phasey kind of wobbly sound. So I've done that as well, but I mean, this sounds much better. It just, you know, it's personal preference. One thing to mention though, when you got this here, like, even though it says 0, it is still there. Blends all the way down. Phase, this is important because if you have completely random, it starts in different places and you won't get the effect, so that needs to be all the way down. And phase I just start at the start because it's the easiest. But also with the detune in the global, you have the width of the detune and the range. This is at 20 instead of 100, and it just means instead of being 100% wide, it's 20% wide, so it's just a bit thinner. So that's it for oscillator A. Then we have a sub, simple sub, just, you know, sine wave direct out, so it's clean. That is actually being high passed at the end of the effects chain, but because it's being distorted and to make a nice effect, I left that in. Okay, so then we got the filter, and filter is being moved by the macros. I mean, it's not going to do it while I don't play it, but you know, you get the idea. And the filter is bandpass multi 12, and you got the cutoff here, and then you got, I'm modulating this frequency here, so you can see that little peak that's moving. That's being modulated by LFO1. 2 bars, so if I play you'll see it moving. There you go. And that just creates a bit of movement, because without that, so it's a small change, but it makes a massive difference. The mix isn't all the way because I wanted some other frequencies. I just want these peaks moving up and down. Alright, so that's it for this page. Effects, quite a lot of effects on this, but I mean nothing complicated. So then this on, I've got the drive being modulated by macro 1 from about 36 to 100. I did have the filter on. I'll show you what it sounds like. I mean, it's on rectify, but yeah, with this, it kind of, I don't know, whichever one you have it on, it still kind of sounds nice when you're just simply high passing it. But I mean, this is all to your taste, and you might make a track and it doesn't quite fit, and changing this would make it fit a lot better. So it's just sort of find the right thing. Then got a phaser. Mix is just under halfway, and the rate is on. Normally, I'd have the rate on 0 and just sort of, because that means it doesn't move and you can just put it where you want. But I liked it slightly moving, more sort of movement in the sound. So copy these settings down. I don't really need to go through them. That'd be boring. Then I've got the multiband compressor. This is much like OTT. Again, you can copy these down rather than me go through each one. Bit of EQ to boost the highs, just make it a bit more crispy. And then a filter. Now this filter's in normal and it's a notch 12. And this is also being modulated by the LFO. So this is just making a notch that sweeps up and down, the same as there was the boost in the frequency. In the filter. You know, just even more movement. And then finally we got a dimension expander, again, instead of reverb. So this is just making it a little bit wider, and a bit more sort of nice for the ears. And that is it for Inside Serum. So it's a pretty simple patch, it's just you kind of know what you need to do to make this sound. Right, so moving out of Serum, we have this sound. I'm going to turn that down before we do anything else because it's going to get loud. I think it was just under. There you go. So I started off with this EQ. Actually, no, I didn't. I lied. I started off with this distortion. Now, that's not too bad. This is Camel Crush. I explained last time that Camel Audio website isn't working, but find somewhere else to download this if you don't already have it. Here are the settings: compressor, distortion, and the mix is just under halfway. Just, you know, if it's all the way, it's a bit too intrusive. And then I did something quite interesting, which I tend to do quite a lot, is I'd boost the frequency I like before the distortion, so that goes fine. So you can hear that's a bit sharper now that it's been forced through, but then the EQ afterwards be in the same place. So I'm boosting this by 10 and I'm reducing it by 9.7, but pretty much the same, but in the opposite way. So, and it just means you have the really distorted effect, but when you bump it back down, it's sort of in level with the rest of the frequencies, and it's not loud, but you still have that certain section being more distorted, which is nice. It's then been high pass to remove the sub after the distortion, because the sub creates a really nice effect. And then we got a little bit of reverb. Now this is another free plugin called Ambience. I believe if you download it now, it's like got a different model to it, but it should have the same controls, hopefully. But yeah, so the dry wet's 0.23, dry's 1, room size 0.5, and time's down, and I've high passed it a little bit. But it's pretty much the default preset when you load it up, just the time's a bit shorter and it's been high passed. And then at this point, like this. Now, if you do use this reverb, you will realise it doesn't do a lot. But that's fine. All it's doing is creating like some room sort of sounds, sort of the reflections off the walls and It doesn't do a lot, but it's one of those plugins that adding that on makes it sound really quite nice and defined. At this point I wanted a bit more movement when I was moving the macro that you saw in Serum that's been mapped to macro 1 in the rack. And now let's see if I can move it around. It's not doing much, but here's your settings. So this is the macro in Serum being controlled, and this is the frequency of the EQ. So copy that lot down. Then at this point it was literally just finalizing it. Shoved it a bit more into a saturator, 5 dB. The colour's on, but that's not really doing anything. Soft clip should be on. And at this point I was quite happy with the sound I got. And then I put the sub. Now this is just a simple operator thing. It's just I've got by default it's on this pattern, but you want it on this pattern, so they're all individual. They're not frequency modulating any of them. And I've got this sine wave and this one a sine wave, but this one's an octave higher, which I can show you if I get the spectrum. So you can see there are 2 peaks. This one's quite low sometimes, and it's not when you're listening on sort of lower quality headphones or speakers, you can't really hear it. So the higher one sort of solves that problem, but you have the lower one. So when you do play it on a big system or something with a sub or high quality headphones, you can hear that as well. So it's not missing out on both things. At this point I added a saturator, just clip control. It's not clipping at all, but I just have it on there just out of habit. And then sidechain, which is pretty standard. And at this point I made the rest of the track. I think Serum's actually still a bit quiet, but I'll solve that afterwards. And then I thought, oh, it'd be nice to have maybe like another synth on top. I didn't do this in the example I played, but I thought maybe for another part of the song it would be nice to have this on top. Relatively simple, it's just an analog. You don't have to do this, it's just, I thought, a bit of variation sometime later. Now the glide in this is a bit funny because it's not a number, it's a percentage, so I kind of had to work that out, and it's still not perfect, but I mean, it doesn't really matter. So yeah, that's pretty much it at the moment. So yeah, that's this tutorial done. I'm doing a few more tutorials today to try and catch up on my daily tutorial thing. But yeah, any problems with the downloads? Because I had a problem before, somebody was downloading it and it wasn't extracting into anything, which was really strange. I wonder if they couldn't find it. But yeah, just comment below if you can't download the waveform. And yeah, thank you very much for watching. Bye.